Well, good morning. I want to welcome you all to this month's power session, and I'm excited to talk about this idea of dreams and reality. As a coach, this is a question I get all the time. Dave, I've got a dream. I've got something I want to do. I've got a hope. I've got a wish. I've got a want. I've got a desire. I've got something that I at least have a feeling and a thought that what if I could do that? And maybe that would be possible, but I'm not sure. And I talk to folks all the time that are thinking that way. I think it's the nature of my business. And I'm assuming that you all have tuned in today or have called up the webinar because you want to explore that possibility. So the topic is how to turn that dream into a reality. And we're going to talk about that today. I want to thank the Portsmouth, Ohio Chamber, the Maysville, Kentucky Chamber, the Grayson, Kentucky Chamber, the Adams County, Ohio Chamber of Commerce, and the Ashland Alliance. They're sponsors of this. What that means is they just promote it and they move it along. And so we want to thank them publicly here and on this webinar for their support and their promotion. So let's move forward. I always like to talk about the rules of the game, and from what I can see, those have tuned in have heard this many times, but I always like to apply the rules to our topic. And so ownership. Here's a question I have for you as we look at the rule of being an owner. Do you own your dreams? Isn't that an interesting question? I could even change the question to this. Do you own your future? Now, none of us can control everything in the future, and none of us can completely control what happens to us and what happens in our environment. Things just happen. But I'm asking, do you take an inside view of the world in the sense that you're going to own what you can own? You're going to influence what you can influence. You're going to do what you can do. You're not going to be a victim to what goes on and to what happens to you, but you're going to stand up and respond to it and be accountable to it and own it. I want you to come into this time that we spend together this morning as an owner. I want you to think that way, that you're going to own it. Second, 100% participation. It goes with dropping the I know. I want you to kind of come in as a little curious kid today. I want you to get rid of your preconceived notions about dreams and about projects and about goals and just come into this fresh with a fresh whiteboard. Just take that eraser and erase it all. If you've got a lot of stuff going on today or this week or had a lot of problems or issues, if you could kind of just open the drawer and scoot everything into that drawer and shut that drawer, you can open it later and get back to work. And just take this hour or so together to explore this idea of, could I turn my dreams into an actual accomplishment? That's what we're going to look at today. So get rid of your I know, get rid of your presuppositions, get rid of your what you think you know, because what you know is very little compared to what can be known. There's so much we don't know. So if we humble ourselves and admit that, 100% participate, 100% take some notes, 100% listen to what's being said, 100% being present, we'll have fun today. And I'll help you take a beautiful, wonderful look at your life and at your job and at your relationships and at your family and at your career in a fresh new way. And especially those things we call dreams. This is your coach. I've been married for 38 years to a wonderful woman. She is just amazing. I could spend the whole hour talking about her. She would not appreciate that. I've got 3 sons, Michael, Aaron, and Nathan. I love every one of them. I'm the granddaddy of all granddaddies, and I love all the grandkids. They're just a lot of fun. They're my guinea pigs. They're the things that they're the folks that I try things out on. I've been a business leadership coach for 20 years. I'm a certified biblical counselor. I help people with marriage issues and with sometimes addiction issues, help with just the problems of life in that role. And I have a passion to help people. And the way I want to kick off this morning's session is I want to tell my story. And I don't do this. I don't know that I've ever done it. Might be the first time I've really done this especially on a webinar. But I think it is an example of what we're talking about today. I was in my late 40s, and the company I was working with, I was an environmental consultant. And I live here in Southern Ohio. It's not the bastion of job opportunities, you know that. And especially for somebody who had a very specific skill set. I worked in the area of environmental science. I did environmental project management. And my company was moving away from that and moving into construction. I'm not a construction guy. I'm a paperwork guy. I'm a consulting guy. I'm not a construction guy. So I knew the writing on the wall is I needed to look for another job. And Connie and I wanted to stay in the area. So I put my resume out. And this company called Action Coach contacted me and said, "You'd be a great business coach." And I said, "What's that? I've never heard of business coaching. I've never heard of coaching people other than in sports and maybe in acting and in the arts, but I've never heard of a business coach." And so they explained that, and they said, based on the fact that you've done consulting and you've done counseling in your church and you've helped people, you might be a great coach. And I thought, well, maybe. And the more I explored that, I started to get excited. But it was scary because I'd always had a job. I'd always had a paycheck. And it was starting to be a dream of mine to be a successful coach and have my own business, but it was so scary. And I'm a praying guy. So I prayed to the Lord and I said, "Lord, if this is what you want me to do, then you're going to have to work it out. It just seems over my head, completely out of the realm of possibility. But these folks say I could do it. I'm curious." I went out to 7 or 8 banks to get a loan. That's what the guy that selling the franchise said. You need to see if you can get a business loan and buy the franchise for $70,000. Back then, that was like $1 million. I just looked at that and said, that can't happen. But hey, I suppose you go into business, you're supposed to get a business loan. Well, you can imagine I went out to the local banks and they told me, "We love your proposal. We love your business plan, but you have no collateral. You're going to quit your job. You're going through a midlife crisis, and we kind of think you're crazy." One guy said, "I think you're crazy, even though it's crazy good, but I just don't see it happening, especially becoming a business coach in Southern Ohio, kind of a little bit of a depressed area of the country, not a lot of businesses that are thriving. Who's going to pay your fees, et cetera, et cetera." So here's my dream of being this business coach, the successful business coach. And here's the reality around me that 7 banks have said, "We don't believe you could make it." And I've got my guy in the franchise. So I go back to him and I said, "Hey, I can't get a loan. And I'd like to do this, and I don't see a path clear." And he said, "Well, let's just keep working on it. And you said you believe in God and you've prayed, and if there's a way to do this, it'll work out." I said, "Well, that's what I've got, and that's what it'll have to be." I looked at some other job possibilities, and those people said, "You really want to do that coach thing?" That was my dream. So I went back to my franchise guy, and he said, "Well, you need to get training, and that's $20,000. You need to get a signature loan from your bank. If you can at least pay if you can at least pay for the training, we can get you into training. And I got a signature loan, and they said, we'll help you with that. And so I borrowed the money, went to Las Vegas, and went into coach training. And what the franchise guy said is, we'll lease the license to you. You won't own it, and we'll let you make payments. And all this time, I need a means of support. I need to pay for my bills. I need to pay back the loan on the business, on the franchise, and I need to pay back the loan on the training. And so I went head over heels into debt, of course, with my wife's agreement and saying, what's the worst thing that could happen? And we started to turn this dream into reality. And it was a rocky start. And I look back and think, wow, how crazy was I? Now, let's fast forward to today. I am a top 10% business coach in the world as far as income. I've been extremely successful, helped hundreds and hundreds of people, probably in the thousands actually, and hundreds of businesses over the last 22 years. And I tell you, it is a reality. The dream that I had of doing this coaching business has become a reality. But it happened in the context of perseverance. It happened in the context of not giving up. It happened in the context of taking a brutal look at all the challenges and all the negativity and all the things that could go wrong, and then putting my focus forward for the purpose of achieving the outcome and working through it. And there were some easy times and there were some hard times, and it was all good and it was all glorious. And right now I'm reaping the benefit and enjoying the fruit of it. But I share that story. I've never really shared that before at that length, at that depth with people, to say that your dream can be a reality, but there's a way to get there. And I'm going to share that with you now. So we're going to jump into today's topic. We're talking about your destination. And in this little flip chart, you've got a past. Your past is in your head. Your past is what you remember. It's not accurate. It's selective. And some of it's grown bigger and some of it's grown smaller. And it's all tied up with emotions of the past. So you have a selective memory of the past. And you have a past. And you also have a track record. You are sitting here on the webinar with Coach Dave Beam in the present. So you are here today, June 28th, 2023, present. And you have a future. On this chart, I've called it a default future. If we live our future, I want you to hear this. If you plan and live your future based on your past memories and thinking and experience, your future will look a whole lot like your past. Now, I want to say that again. If you plan and live your future in the thinking and the thoughts of your past, that thinking and those thoughts will create a future that looks a whole lot like your past. And some people would call it a rut, just a grave with the ends knocked out. In other words, same. In other words, I'm doing the same thing every year. We go on a vacation and we do this. I've got the same job. I do the same work, got the same family, got the same place I eat out. And it just is pretty boring. I don't know how many of you all have a tedious, boring life. Maybe it's a busy, busy life, but that is what happens in most cases. And then along comes a dream, a hope, a wish, a want, a desire. And there could be a different future. But this is a future that you would have to create different than what the default future would be. So if you're following my logic, very simple chart, but if you're following my logic, if you want a different future, you have to get your thinking from a different place than your past. I'm not saying throw the past away, but if you only set your future in your head, your plans, your dreams based on the past, then the future will be much like the past. We're talking about going big or going home. We're talking about something very different for your future, a dream. Now, a dream without a plan is a delusion or just something entertaining, daydreaming, just someplace to escape to. But that's all a dream is. It's kind of wispy, it's kind of cloudy, it's kind of the thing of fairy tales. And I'm not trying to be a Davy Downer here. I'm just saying, if you just keep it in the realm of thought, if you keep it in the realm of just thinking, but you don't do anything about it, a dream is not very useful. It's just a way to escape. It's like maybe a good movie or even a nightmare. We're talking about turning those dreams into reality. Well, it starts by determining that you're going to get your thinking from somewhere than just your past. You're going to go into a future that you create in your mind, a picture in your mind of what could be, and you're going to bring that back to the present. And that is where it starts. That's where you start to change direction, is when you set aside your past thinking and you go to a creative place, a brand new place. You start to think differently about possibility. So I want you to just absorb that little chart. If you're taking notes, you might write that down and just draw it out on a piece of paper there and think about it later. But this is where it starts, is you've got to get your thinking and your planning and your action from somewhere other than your past, or you'll have a default future that looks just like the past. We've always done it that way. You've heard that at your job, probably. Well, that's comfortable because it's familiar. Like you've lived a lot of your life that way, so it's familiar. My question is, do you want something different? Do you have a dream? Do you have something that you hope for, wish for, want, desire different than what the past has been? Well, then it begins by thinking differently than you thought in the past. That's what that slide is. So that's a real key slide to this idea of making your dreams a reality. This is another chart that we have used before, and I think it's a key set of learnings and principles that will help in this process. And then I'm going to give you the actual process of how to do this. So hang in there. It's coming, but I want to give you some more foundational stuff. That's an iceberg. And we call it the identity iceberg. This represents you, a human being, and what you do. Most people are very attached to what they do every day. Their things like their behavior, their actions, the words, what they say, and actually how they look. And when we judge other people, when we judge ourselves and evaluate ourselves, we're basically looking at the visible part of our iceberg, the behavior part, the do. Now, this is not where you go to have sustained change. This is where you go just to have compliance, just to stay connected and doing things that you've always done. Often I work with people on how to manage people, and they're trying to manage behavior. They're just trying to get them to do their job, and they work on the words and the actions and the appearance. But what they need to see is there's this part of the iceberg that we don't see below the water that's a whole lot bigger, about 90%. And when you work on that part of the iceberg, that is what drives the behavior. Why is this important in pursuing dreams and making dreams a reality? Well, if you're going to make your dream a reality, you need to work on more than just your actions and your words and your appearance and your behavior. You need to work with some of the junk that's in the way of that. And let's talk about what that is. That's down below the water. I call it the B. It's the personal identity. It's how you see yourself. And it consists of what you want. We're talking about dreams today, desires, how you feel about the world and about yourself. It includes your values. What is really important to you? You know, if you have a dream, but it's not really important to you, you won't make it come about. You won't want to put in the effort. But when the want to and the desire and the value of that becomes high, then the behavior becomes a lot easier. Think about that. Do you really want it? Do you really find it valuable, this dream that you have? Do you believe? Belief is just something you hold to be true. Do you believe it's possible to have that? If you don't believe it, you won't do it. If you don't believe it, you won't do it. You might try it, but you won't sustain. You won't commit. You have to have a belief and a philosophy. It has to match the way you see life. And frankly, the bottom of that iceberg, the most important piece is your identity. Here's a question. I go back to my story that I told earlier. Did I see myself as a business coach? Could I see me in a future doing what I'm doing now? Even though I'd never done it in my past. Well, folks, that's what we need to work on. We need to see it if we're going to do it. This is the way human beings learn things. They create it in their mind first, and they see it in their mind, and then they start to practice, and they start to do things, and they start to take action. Now, just sitting in your closet and wishing and hoping and dreaming and this law of attraction, ridiculous stuff of new age, I'm not into that at all. You can sit there and hope and confess and have all these affirmations in the mirror, and nothing will happen until you do something. There's an action piece that has to be added to the being piece. It's be times do. And this is all about thought down here in the bottom. It gives you what you want to have, which is the results. So we're talking about turning those dreams about possibility into results, into actual tangible things that occur. That happens when you start to take action. But the action has to be rooted in thinking. Because if your thoughts and your identity and your philosophy and your beliefs and your values and your emotions and desires aren't in line with each other, we don't have something that will sustain the action needed to get the result. I hope you're seeing this. Saying this seems pretty complicated. It's complicated until you stay with it, and then it becomes very simple. The simple is the be, do, have. You decide what you want to have. That's your dream, the result you want. Then you figure out, who do I have to be in order to do what I need to do to have what I want to have? That's the whole slide right there. But that being includes a lot of things, and that doing includes some things. And it's really slowing everything down and thinking about it. Again, we talked on the previous slide about thought, how it has to change. A change of thinking changes your identity. It changes your being to somebody who will start to do what they need to do to have that. I hope you see that. Just want to leave that up on the screen for a moment here while you take this all in. I know I'm fire hosing you today and just talking a lot, but I want you to just kind of listen and let it all come together. And I think it'll start to make some sense. Hopefully it's creating some hope in you that maybe I can have this dream. Maybe this dream doesn't just need to be a cloud or just a wish or a hope, but it actually can become a project. It actually can become a result. That's what we're working on today. All right. Let's move on to the meat of things. I'm going to put the B back up there because it is the foundation. You have to be the person that would actually do that dream. You have to have your identity shifted. And that happens in your head before it happens in your environment. You ever notice somebody when they get a new job and they get a new business card or they get a new title? Some people really, that shifts them somehow. They just get really better. It's because they start to see themselves differently. It's how we as leaders and as friends and as comrades and as parents help other people. We help them see things about themselves that they don't really recognize about themselves. And it's not talking about smoozing people and just lying to them. I'm saying often what a coach does, what I do as a coach, I see potential in a player. I see opportunity there that they are missing. Maybe they've been told negative things all their life, or they've been fed things in their head that have clouded what they see. And I start to help them get clarity so that they can do something different and have a different result. This is how you change a dream into reality, is you do things that are different and you are a different person. Well, let's go back to our dream at the bottom. My question here right now is, do you have a dream? I'm not talking about eating too much pizza and having a nightmare, that kind of dream. I'm talking about, do you have something in the future that you would like to achieve? Someone you would like to be that you're not being, something you'd like to do that you've never done. Do you have a dream? Do you have a dream to serve people in a different way, to make a difference? A lot of people have given up on that. Now, I don't think that's worth a lot by itself. I think it's a starting point. But I want you just to look at what's on the chart right now. There's enough there for you to kind of figure this out. If I have a dream, I need to think about, who do I need to be that I'm not being right now to fulfill that dream? And what do I need to do to be that person so that I can do the things that it would take to have that result? See, this is changing your dream into a project. This is taking something very subjective and making it objective. I'm getting it on paper. I'm getting it out of my heart and my head and onto paper. I'm being a planner here. I'm engaging my prefrontal cortex, my objective mind, into this very emotional process. So as I dream, I need to work up to this next level. So now we're going to start taking your dream to fulfillment. It starts with the question, is it possible? Or is it impossible? I'm not going to break into song and start singing to dream the impossible dream. But you know, if you believe your dream is impossible, you will not achieve it. The first step in this thinking change that needs to occur in my being is I need to see the possibility. Now, I didn't say it's likely that it'll happen, but is it possible for it to happen? I'll throw one out. I want to make $1 million. Well, if you ask me that question, Dave, I want to hire you as my coach. I want to make $1 million. My first question for you would be why? Why does that mean something to you? And then my second question would be, is that possible? Do you see a path to $1 million? Well, I don't know. That seems impossible to me. Well, have other people like you ever made $1 million? Yeah, they've done it. So it's possible. Now, what will make what's possible likely? That's what we're going to work on now, but you have to see the possibility of it first. So take your current dream, whatever it is, and get it into the realm of possibility. Get it into the realm of you say that could happen. If you don't believe it could happen, you don't believe that it might happen, that there might be a way to get there, then we got to start right there. We got to overcome these limiting beliefs, these negative Nellies, these thoughts that could never happen, the total pessimism. We have to start to believe that it could happen. Not guaranteeing anything, but it's possible. Then we move up to the next level. And as you're thinking about possibility, we move to vision. Now, this is the top of the puzzle box. This is when we take that foggy dream that's not real clear. It's just in the realm of feeling and hope and desire and wish. And we start to get really clear on what it looks like. So we want to start to paint a picture. Maybe even paint a literal picture on a piece of paper, or a description, a paragraph with words. We paint a picture with words, but it's in our mind. Here's the way our biocomputer and our brain works. For us to achieve something, we have to first see it. Vision is about seeing. And this is also about being a great leader or an effective leader. Is leaders help other people see their picture. If I'm wanting to get a team to help me accomplish a vision, I need to create and share a vision so we know where we're going. It's kind of like going on vacation. I have to start to see where I'm going. I have to start to understand, begin with the end in mind. And that end of that puzzle is that box top, isn't it? Got all these pieces. And it's possible to work this puzzle and create this beautiful picture. But for me to do that well, I need to see what that picture is going to look like when it's finished. So again, we're going to a created future on that first flip chart, and we're starting to create a vision of what this dream would look like when it actually comes about. This is just the way our brain works. This isn't mystical. This isn't all that spiritual even. It's just the way things work. We, as human beings, have this ability to go out of our present into our future and see things. And when we can see it, we'll start, the belief of the possibility starts to increase. And now our being has changed based on this created future. I hope you're seeing the process. We now have clarity. Before we had a wispy, feely, touchy dream, kind of a wish and a hope that we could do better, we could do this or that, or be this or that. Now we've defined it. Now we've got the puzzle box top. Now we've got clarity. And now we need to start to move toward a project. We need to turn our dream and our vision into a project. And it begins by setting some goals, outcome goals. So I've got this beautiful dream that I want to turn into reality. Where could I be as I move toward that dream and that vision in 1 year? Where could I be with this dream in 5 years? I start to put some time frame, some specificity, some action, some ideas of actually doing something about it. What could I do over the next year to move toward that vision? I start to set some goals, some tangible, measurable, specific goals. This is just the process of changing my dream into reality. So got to have some outcome goals. Now, this is not going to get it done by itself. This is just part of the process. We have to do something beyond outcome. We have to move into process. I have to turn those outcome goals into what am I going to do this week? I've got this 1-year goal, 1-year milestone that's going to move me towards the vision. I have to turn it into a process. If I sit on the couch and just set goals and have dreams and have visions and even believe that it's possible, nothing happens until you take the first step. And folks, this is where you turn your dream into a project. You start to work on your dream, and now your dream is starting to become a reality, one small step at a time. I go to the bank and ask for the money. I don't know what your next step is, but it's that taking the step breaks the inertia. It breaks objects at rest tend to stay at rest. We need to get out of rest and into action. And this is where it happens. Now I have a direction. I have an outcome goal set. I need to turn it into a process, something I'm going to do. It's got to have the foundation. You got to have the clarity. Just doing with no direction and no clarity is just craziness. And that's where a lot of people are. They're busy, going nowhere. We need to know where we're going. Now we're talking about how am I going to get there? What steps do I need to take? Specific actions I need to take to move in that direction. And that's your process goals. Like process goals are daily goals. These are things that you can commit to. You know, you can't always commit to a dream. You can't always commit to an outcome, but you can commit to the process. You can commit to not eating so many calories. You can commit to some exercise. And this is where the rubber meets the road, is I determine what I need to do to have what I want to have, and I start doing it. That doing it will grow out of whom I'm being. This is the action part. I have clarity. Now I'm going to act. But I'm not just acting randomly. I'm not just trying to do something. I'm acting very precisely with process goals that are set on longer term outcome goals that are linked to a vision that I've created in my mind because I believe this change is possible. I hope you're seeing it. And then I move from process goals to celebration. So as I do every day what I've committed to do every day, the process, I celebrate my victory every night as I go to bed because I took another step today and I learned something. Sometimes I take a step and I go the wrong direction and I learn something. Sometimes I take a step forward and I really move towards my dream and my goal. Sometimes I have a difficult week and I move backwards, but I learn from that. And I don't give up because I still have the possibility. And folks, that's when we have the result. Now, I hope that this has given you all some clarity on how to get from a dream to the actual outcome, the actual result. As a coach, this is really my life's calling, is to help people walk through this process. Sometimes it's in a business, sometimes it's in a nonprofit organization. They have a dream. They would love to have a company that looks like this or looks like this. They'd love to have sales of a certain amount. They'd love to have a certain kind of growth. They'd like to have employees that have a certain culture. It's all those dreams that people have, desires, hopes, wishes, and wants that we have to help people start to see that it's possible. That's where it starts. And then paint a real clear picture of what it looks like, beginning with the end in mind. And then changing that vision or that picture into some tangible goals that we can focus on and set process goals and we can start doing the things that will take us to that end. And if I was on this call today and I was you, and I'm saying, well, how is this going to help me? I would look at a current dream that you might have and say, where am I on that chart? Is it down at the bottom? I'm not even sure if I believe it's possible. Maybe I need to work on my limiting beliefs and my iceberg and my philosophy and my values, and say, maybe this is out of line with what I really want. Do I really want this? That's a great question. And do I really believe it's possible? Maybe you've got a goal, maybe you've got a dream and you believe it's possible, but you haven't gotten real clarity around it. You haven't painted a clear picture. Maybe there's some fear holding you back. Maybe you're afraid to get really clear. You know, it's odd how people are. We're just strange creatures. But maybe you lack some clarity. You need somebody to help you clarify what's in your head. Maybe you've got a clear picture, but you haven't set any SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable 1-year goals to start moving that direction. You haven't set your target. I mean, specific target, your milestones. Maybe you're saying, Dave, I'm great at all that. I set good goals. I just don't do anything. I'm lazy. I just can't be engaged. I don't seem to be accountable, and I drop the ball. I don't continue to move forward. Well, maybe you're an outcome goals and you're beating yourself up, but you've never set process. What are those daily things you need to do consistently that will move you that direction? And why don't you focus and commit your action to those things and kind of put the other stuff in a drawer somewhere? Because we'll check in on that from time to time, every quarter, every year. But right now we need to focus on what we need to do. And we need to change some habit. And we need to make some commitment and get rid of the intention and start having commitment and doing what we need to do to get the result. Perhaps you're not celebrating often enough your progress. You know, a big dream, a big outcome takes time. And I don't know about you, but patience isn't one of my strong suits. So sometimes you have to start celebrating weekly and daily progress with your team. The small little results we get along the way. It's called enjoying the journey, not just the destination. Let's not wait till the end to celebrate. Let's celebrate progress. So that's an overview of the process. And if I were you, I would take my dream and I'd say, where am I in this process? Where have I got it together, and where have I not arrived there yet? And get some help to move to the next level. There is a process of doing this. Dreams, though they're very subjective and very wispy and very emotional, can be turned into an objective process of work and doing to get to the end result. And that's what great leaders and managers do, is they take dreams and they make them realities. And you can do this. You can learn how to do this. You can learn how to help your team do this. And that's what my calling and my business is all about, is helping people do this process. So that brings me to here today. What have you learned? And more importantly, what action will you take? What is your next step? If you want to change your dream into an actual reality, what step do you need to take right now? Do you have clear on where you are and what you need to do next? I hope that I've helped you get that clarity today. Dave, here's where I am, but this is what I need to do next. And here's some potential steps you can take with me if you'd like my help. First of all, I'll send you all the slides. There you'll have it, and that'll be a reminder of what you've learned. You can take your notes and put them on those slides, or just use those pictures of those concepts to help you kind of evaluate your situation. Just email me. I'll send those to you. I've got an article, very interesting title, The Power of Pursuing the Impossible. Why would we want to pursue something impossible? Why is that a good idea? That seems frustrating, doesn't it, Dave? The fact is, if we'll go for something quote unquote impossible, it will challenge us to reinvent ourselves, to reinvent our capacity, to start to say, well, who would I need to be to do that? I don't feel like I could do it now, but if I could reinvent myself and become this person, then it would no longer be impossible. So impossible things challenge us to step up. I'll send you that article free upon request. And this morning, I'm going to throw in another article by Jim Rohn called It's a Life Planning Process. It takes these concepts and puts it into a tangible way of planning your life. And I think it's been very helpful. I've used it with groups in the past. I'll send you that process as well. All you have to do is ask. Be glad to email it out to you. The third offer is for a few of you that would be ready to have a 30-minute conversation with me about your dream and to talk about where you are in this process and what the next steps are. And I would love to talk to any of you for 30 minutes about that, free upon request. Well, Dave, that's just a way to get me to hire you as my coach. Well, that could happen, but that's not really my goal. My goal in there is to give you 30 minutes to help you get clear on where you are in the process. Coaching is a whole other, hiring me as a coach is a whole other conversation. We wouldn't likely even have that conversation at this conversation. This one is about you getting clear about where you are in this process, about your dream and about your thoughts. So that's how you get a hold of me. And I would encourage you to do that. And that really brings us to the end of our time today. I used to feel obligated to go the whole hour. And I thought, well, these are complimentary sessions. Nobody's paying any money, so I don't owe them anything. And if it's a better 45-minute presentation than it is an hour, then I think we ought to do it for 45 minutes. So all that said, we're finished today. I appreciate you being here. Hope to see you on future hours of powers that we do every month. And please contact me and give me a call. So I'm going to sign off and say goodbye. And thank you for your attendance this morning and your attention.